Okay. And the month of October went really fast, didn't it?
They all do.
Yeah, no lie. So that means this is the last scary themed for verses for the year. And given the fact that some theaters are going to be getting a re-release of the original film next week, I thought it makes perfect sense that would be the video for the final scary themed verses. So we're going to find out what happens when the two purveyors of the new term torture porn do battle as Saw takes on Hostel. AJ, take it away.
Alright. For starters, both of them have interesting backstories as far as their initial release. Starting with Saw, I was watching Ebert and Roper when they were still on TV, and they reviewed this, and I had no idea what it was. I did not know it existed until I saw that review.
Really?
And they fucking hated it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, whoa, that looks twisted. And then that very night, my brother came home from hanging out with you.
Yeah, most likely.
And I said, well, you're home late. And he said, yeah, we stayed behind and watched Saw. And I was like, what in the fuck is Saw? Why did it just... I'm suddenly hearing everything about this in the span of 2 hours. What is this?
Yeah.
And he told me about it being this psychotic, grisly horror movie about a game.
Yes.
And suddenly it became very, very popular.
Yeah.
And mind you, I still wasn't quite into the, I wasn't rushing out to see movies of the sort back then still.
True.
So, I would have been probably around 14 by the time it came out. 13 or 14. I'd assume it came out after my birthday, so around that time. Because if it's Halloween, it must be. So...
I was about to say that, actually. Thank you for doing it for me.
I guess I'll get into Hostel's backstory after we talk about Saw. So, it's got... Not only does it have an interesting concept, it has a couple of interesting concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with the fact that it originally started as James Wan and Lee Whannell needed to... They had it as a short film.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the Amanda is Johnny Smith's name?
Yeah.
It was just the Amanda scene, I think.
Nice.
And they decided to expand it into this feature-length movie, and we got to learn more about the Jigsaw Killer and exactly what he does. And we actually start off with probably the most interesting aspect of the movie, despite, the fun guts and machines and shit. The basic concept of the main story is two dudes in a giant bathroom. A public bathroom that is locked, and obviously abandoned given its appearance. And we have Cary Elwes and Lee Whannell. Now, yeah, not exactly acting juggernauts by any means whatsoever. Cary Elwes certainly has its moments, but yes. So the two of them in this bathroom, and there is a dead guy on the floor with a gun in his hand and a tape recorder in the other, and he's in a puddle of blood. And they basically have to, and they are chained to, Adam, who's Lee Whannell's character, is chained to a bathtub, and Cary Elwes' character, Dr. Gordon, is chained to a pipe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going totally off memory. It's been a few years since I saw these. Even longer since I saw Hostel, but it's been a few years since I saw Saw, I think. Actually, by a few, it might be like 7. But
This will be fun, folks.
My memory seems to be there so far. Let's see if it keeps up. So obviously the game is for them to find out... Well, for them, their goal is to find out how they got here and why. So they managed to get a hold of the tape recorder, and they both have a tape that's addressed to them. And they both, don't... The Jigsaw Killer is basically one of those... He's compared a lot to John Doe in 7.
I get that.
Where he has these, sadistic ways of doing things to convince people that they need to live their lives the right way. Dr. Gordon's like having an affair and he neglects his family, and Adam is this hermit who makes his life taking pictures of other people. Yeah, my memory's still there. I got this.
You're good.
And now the game is that Dr. Gordon's family is being held captive by the Jigsaw Killer, in theory. And in order to save them, he must kill Adam in whatever way he can in this room. There's poison, there's, cigarettes, there's the gun. There's plenty of ways he can do it. He can get out of the chains and go over there and kill him. But they're only equipped with so many things to be able to do this with. And there is a parallel story that's actually... This is one of those movies that really toys with the timeline, too. Because we're kind of mostly in flashback, or entirely in flashback, I don't remember for sure. The story of the two cops, one of which is Danny Glover, who is going after the Jigsaw Killer and is finding all the... It's that nice little balance of, in one part of this movie, we have a psychological thriller going on, there's just two dudes in the bathroom, and then the other portion of the movie is the sadistic gore and traps and all that. You have the guy that's in the cage of barbed wire. You have Amanda with the thing on her head that...
Reverse bear trap.
Yes. That we see reenacted on a watermelon. Where she has to dig through the guy's stomach for the key while he's still alive in order to get out of it. Stuff like that. The scene with Ned Bellamy and the drills. All of that fun stuff. And then we even have, flashbacks within the flashbacks where it's already a flashback of Danny Glover interviewing Shawnee Smith, and then we see her flashback of what exactly happened to her. It's a really kind of a jigsaw puzzle of a movie. So...
You were trying to avoid that, I could tell.
Yes. Now, as far as it being a horror movie, I think it falls more under thriller than anything else, but it does have a lot of horror movie elements.
Yeah.
Starting with, obviously, we have spoilers galore all the time in this segment, so if you don't know that by now, it's your own fault. Obviously, the person who has Dr. Gordon's family is Zep, Michael Emerson.
Yes.
And he's obviously playing the game himself. So, when we see Zep, we don't know it's Zep, obviously, or human for that matter, really, but there is a person dressed all in black lurking in the closets waiting to jump out and steal people. Which seems like its own movie in itself.
Yeah.
Especially because there's so many different horror elements going on in this movie.
The pig mask, too.
Yes. There's that kind of stuff, and then you have everybody's favorite character in this movie, which is the fucking puppet. The puppet that also happens to ride a tricycle. I have always wondered how that works. Because clearly, when he's on the TV, it could just be, Tobin and Bell just... But, when he, comes out riding it's like the scene in the Muppet movie when we see Kermit riding his bike, and we just let movie magic take control, and we don't give a fuck exactly how that was accomplished.
Pretty much.
I'd love to know how the puppet exactly rides the tricycle, because we totally see him riding it without any help.
Motorized tricycle, maybe?
I'm sure it's something. I'm sure Jigsaw has something. Because at the very least, these movies do not go into the supernatural.
No, not at all. Which is that makes it good, too, because it doesn't have to go into that path.
Yes. So the interesting thing about that is you have all these twists and turns in it. And then you have this you have this segment that's set in the bathroom, which could pretty much be its own movie. Because, before I actually saw it, I believe it's a special feature on this DVD, before I actually saw the short film, when I learned that it was based on a short, my first thought was, well, yeah, it's just two dudes in a bathroom. I could see that as being a short movie. But that's not even the portion that was the short film, so... yeah, a lot of it works in a lot of different ways, and it all manages to tie together really well, too. And yeah, I know that it was off-putting to a lot of people because of just how gruesome it was and how just unsettling and unpleasant it really is. that cannot be denied. I totally understand somebody that's not into this movie. Even when we just saw Ouija, there were those two old dudes right beside us, and when they showed the trailer for the re-release, I heard the guy next to me say, like, man, I really hate those movies.
I didn't hear that. That's awesome.
I could totally understand somebody coming from that perspective, especially in our next movie, but no, it's one of those movies where it's not just, I mean, yeah, you could probably, I'm sure it's gotten criticized for this before. I could easily see it being criticized as one of those movies that basically lives off its twist. Like, the twist is its whole reason for existing. But there's a whole lot going on in this movie, and I think it's really well put together.
Yeah.
As we saw, James Wan ends up being, you know, if only he had continued after Insidious 2, he could have gone on to be, like, this great horror master. So what he has left us, apart from Dead Silence, of course, is a fairly decent to really great horror filmography before he's going completely into action. Also minus Death Sentence. Because it's like an action drama, thriller, many things that aren't horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a really good start to show exactly what he was capable of, and I really think it's a pretty nicely put together piece of crazy.
There's one of those things, though, after you see the twist for the first time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. This was the movie at that time where, like, I guess the most recent case you could say is Gone Girl.
Yeah.
This was that movie that was out where everybody that saw it, the first thing they said was, don't learn the twist before you see it.
No.
It's like that Aziz Ansari bit where he talks about, well, I didn't want to watch the whole movie, so I just read the Wikipedia synopsis, and then I stopped right before the end, and then I went and watched the end on YouTube, and I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then we have...
an annoying phone call.
Yes. What if the voice came on and said, I want to play a game?
That would have been awesome.
So, our second movie, has a less, what's the word I'm looking for? A less praised,
There's a lot of people who don't like this movie. I'm one of them, actually.
Well, here's the thing. I actually really like Hostel and its sequel, and no, that's not just because Tarantino's name's on it.
Presents is what, that doesn't mean he directed it, people.
Yes. Just like everybody thought Eli Roth did The Last Exorcism.
Yep.
And Clive Barker did all those straight-to-video movies. So, the thing about Hostel is, obviously, it's a very, very... Saying it's an acquired taste would be to put it as mildly as you can.
Yeah.
But, once again, it had its reputation before it even hit theaters. Because I vividly remember the Hostel TV spots with the warning logo.
That was kind of cool, though. I like that.
Yeah, because I guess, like, much like some of Tarantino's early screenings of Pulp Fiction, among many other horror movies. Apparently it had some test screenings where people really were affected in a physical way. And that's pretty easy to... Like, normally you say, oh, that's bullshit marketing. But I could buy...
I'd buy Hostel like that.
That this movie needs a warning attached to it.
I'd buy that completely.
Because it was in Theater 12 when we got it. Which isn't the smallest theater, but it's the last number.
Yeah,
and
even though it's the first on the left.
It's still like this little box. And every time I would walk by it, I would just think, what the fuck is going on in there? I never wanted to see it. But then, of course, naturally, I went to school. Now, of course, everybody was, weary of it.
Yeah.
And its concept and everything. And I was still in junior high at the time. It was 8th or 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one kid in class who had seen it. And he was raving.
It was Eric Cartman.
And he knew and he knew I was the movie guy, so he kept asking me, dude, are you going to watch it? And lucky for him, I did manage to watch. It came out on DVD before that year ended, so I did get back to him after I saw it on DVD. And yeah, I thought it was... I feel so weird saying this, but yeah, it and its sequel, there's not a whole lot to them. It is just torture porn.
Yeah.
It is just sick and twisted. It's revolting. It really would not have been hard to come up with this idea. you'd have to be insane to come up with these torture methods. Eli Roth.
Yes.
But something about this movie... Okay, to be totally honest, and I'm not the only one, because the comment is on the back here as well, from Tim Hannigan from Horror Movies California, is what it looks like.
That might be .ca for Canada.
The word that jumped out to me was brilliant. I don't know what it... Okay. Let's dissect this and see if I can figure out why I would say such a thing and why I would think that. Because like I said, I feel that way about the sequel too.
I like the sequel, actually.
I never watched the third one that's like in Vegas or something, because it was straight to video, but maybe someday. Just out of curiosity. It's not even an original concept. But something about... Okay, let's talk about whether or not you can consider it a horror movie. Because, you know... okay, obviously by genre it's a horror movie, but I mean... Is it scary? Or is it just gratuitous gore and torturing? What I think is really... I sound so psychotic when I say this movie is brilliant. I wish I had another word, but this is the best I can defend it. What I think is just really, really interesting about what this movie does is it's not... I think it doesn't get enough credit as far as build-up. Because people are saying, you know, Saw and Hostel kind of started this. Horror movies now have become all gore, no build-up, no atmosphere. Just killing time till they can get to the big kill. Which, in the old days, was off-screen and more suggestive.
Yeah, of
which
course.
made it more effective in most cases. So, people thought this started that trend of... There's nothing to this movie, just gore. There's nothing scary about it, just people being tortured. I don't think it gets enough credit for just how frightening these torture scenes are, though. Because people are just quick to dismiss that that's all they are. But there's still, even with the gore present, there is still a build-up.
Yeah.
Because the torture gets more... It progresses and gets worse and worse as the scene plays out. And these are long fucking scenes. And normally in a case like that, you would say, oh my god, this didn't know when to stop, it was too prolonged. But I thought that added to it in this case. Because you just... Like, it would be one thing if the torture scene was happening and they kept cutting to something else and then just cutting back and gore. But the whole scene happens without cutting to anything else. And that requires that ability to really build up the tension before it.
And you have to pay attention. You can't just look away because it's staring you right in the face.
Yes. Vomit, blood, everything.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, and the vomit even comes into play and kind of saves him later a little bit when the guy slips in it. But regardless, I think more to the scene with Derek Richardson than Jay Hernandez. Because Derek Richardson is the one that actually gets killed this time. One of the scenes that got a big reaction was when the heel cutting.
Yeah.
And then he basically offered him a way out. And when he got up to stand and run away, he just couldn't. Like, if this movie were what people play it up to be, it would just be him mutilating Derek Richardson for 10 minutes. But he has that it's kind of got a psychological thing going there too, because he could totally escape if he didn't have just the right cuts in the right places. And that alone is enough to kind of kill your soul when you're in this kind of position.
Yeah, of course.
And he has to really... Like I said, it wouldn't have been... Like, the moments, like I said... I fucking hate it when movies use, puke, because it's... I can't look at it, and it's gratuitous and all that.
Yeah.
But the thing about it here is... The vomiting adds to the scariness of it, because... Like I said, if this were the movie it's more or less always played up as, he wouldn't have time to be scared enough to do that. He would just be killed immediately.
Yeah.
The torture and the way it plays out is what's scary about it. Like, I don't think there's any... Yes, in many movies you can separate the two, but I think here scary and lingering on, seemingly gratuitously, go hand in hand together. And one is the reason for the other.
It's real frightening that people are paying good money, exorbitant amounts of money to kill people.
One of the great scenes in this movie is after Jay Hernandez escapes, and he goes into the room where everybody's like preparing, and he meets the guy. Rick Hoffman is the actor's name.
Yep.
And he's just this American businessman who's this everyday guy. But he is just like really, really amped up to kill somebody. And Jay Hernandez has to pretend that he's another one of them. And just having to watch this guy, just like how excited he is about fulfilling his bloodlust. That scene is really freaky in its own way.
I agree.
And shows the whole point of the movie and what it's trying to get across. And obviously, yeah, it's not without, the memorable gore scenes. One of the scenes that really stands out is the girl he saves at the end, right before she kills herself on the train, where she's got, like, the eyeball hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of it seems really graphic and gratuitous, but it's just the kind of movie you're dealing with.
Hostel 2 is one of my craziest, like, death scenes I think I've seen in a movie. Heather Matarazzo. Oh, God.
And then, like, the last 20 minutes or so turn into this psychotic revenge movie.
Yeah.
When he finds out who the doctor was that was torturing him, and goes over and he does the thing, like, he cuts off 2 of Jay Hernandez's fingers, so he pulls the guy under the bathroom stall and does the same thing before giving him... He can see, like, Jay Hernandez's reflection in the toilet so he knows who's killing him right before it happens. And then he just goes away quietly in the train as our finale. There's something really effective about this movie, and I don't think it quite gets the credit for what it accomplishes. Because it started such a genre of just gratuitous killing people and screaming and all that.
I need to go back and watch it again, because I did not get that vibe when I watched this movie the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's my take on it anyway. Like I said, if you just think it's gratuitous gore, I'm not going to argue with you. I totally understand how one can see it that way. But, yeah, I do think Eli Roth's got a little more going on here, because he's a really smart filmmaker, more so than he gets credit for, too. Like, Cabin Fever is this insanely genius black comedy that apparently he's, like, letting a director remake with the same script or something, is what I heard.
I think so.
Something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, so... I think it's this, like I said, I don't bask in it or anything. It's not a movie I can keep my eyes on.
Yeah.
It's sad for me, that's more so because of the vomit than the blood, but still, I can't outright, like, whenever I watch this movie, I've never full-on watched the torture scenes. I can't do it.
It's like Donnie Wahlberg in Saw.
Yes, I still have never seen Donnie Wahlberg's death scene in Saw 4.
Oh my god, it's so brutal.
Nor the quick flash of it in Saw 5, so... I was like, is this where they do the stuff? Okay, I'm not looking.
Yep.
So, yeah, honestly, I think, I mean, both of them absolutely accomplish what they're set out for and don't get the credit that they deserve with what they were accomplished and why they are the start of what is ultimately a shitty genre. But the reason it started to begin with is because it had 2 great movies to feed off of. Recent movies to feed off of. And kind of point the finger at as far as what inspired them. Honestly, of the 2, I think I prefer Hostel. But they're kind of on the same path. So, like I said, I think Saw is really good as far as a story and how it's put together and built, and how it's like a puzzle you can kind of put together, and it all has that massive ending that just makes your head explode. But Hostel has that more effective thing going on. Like I'm more keen to throw the word brilliant at Hostel than Saw. So that probably just makes me totally psychotic. If that changes your opinion of me, I'm sorry. I'm not that crazy.
See, this was the start of the torture porn genre, just like when we did Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity a couple weeks ago. That was the start of the found footage genre, so...
Rebirth.
Well, what most people know it for, like, the mainstream know it for. So it makes sense that we would end on this one. So that should be the end of horror for a while, actually. On Versus, at least.
think there's one more that we thought of that's going to just kind of be thrown in there.
I think it's going to become a tradition, just like if it's Halloween, it has to be Saw. Apparently, if it's October, it's going to be Scary Theme, so Scary Theme will probably return next year. That's probably all I can give you there. We got a couple in mind we can still do. One that got completely shut out, so there is a movie that we've been wanting to do on Versus for a while, but we're trying to find something to go against it at this point, so we'll see what happens with that. So, hopefully you enjoyed AJ's movie reviews this past week. Enjoyed Ashley's Gaming with Ash segment. And hopefully you continue to watch Pop this week, the wrestling content, Horror Nights content, and lead us into actually Halloween. So, new vlog of randomness on Wednesday, new sip and snack video on Thursday, and back into the movie reviews on Friday. So, keep watching, keep tuned in, and AJ, any parting words?
That's it.